Hey ladies, let's talk about the food for your wedding reception. So we are talking about catering here. So I just want to clarify with you and make sure that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that your wedding reception venue allows you to bring in an outside caterer, because I will warn you, sometimes venues force you to use their catering services. And if that's the case, then obviously if you have a catering service that you love and want to bring in, that would be out of the picture and you can't do that. So make sure you have all of those details. So what you can do is you can call different catering services and get a rough quote for a wedding with your guest count. So if you have a rough estimate of, hey, we're probably going to have 200 people at our wedding, or we're going to have 400 people at our wedding, how much do you think your catering service would cost? They could probably give you a general estimate. You can always ask the caterer to sample food. Possibly you can stop in and taste test. Of course, you want to like the food. Once you actually find a caterer that you are ready to agree to reserve, make sure you sign a contract. Get everything in writing in regards to your wedding, and you'll have to put a deposit down as well. You'll definitely want to confirm the delivery date on your wedding day and a setup time and the breakdown time according to your timeline. So you have to make sure that everyone's on the same page. All right, so additionally, the caterer will more than likely be providing the china and the tableware, but sometimes the reception venue even provides the china and the tableware. So for example, our reception venue provided the nice china, and so the caterer actually was part of the reception venue as well, so it made it very simple. But sometimes the caterer will bring in maybe plastic plates if that's the route you decided to go. So just find out and decide in general if the reception venue is taking care of the china and the tableware, or if the caterer is in charge of the china and tableware. So and what kind is included in the package. So is it nice china? Is it clear plastic? Or is it regular plastic or paper plates or styrofoam? Just find out that detail. There are, I do want to warn you, charges for so many little things that you don't think of as well. Just want you to be aware of that. So something fun that I did regarding catering was I did an order of mac and cheese for a table that said for the kids only. So I had a cute little sign that said for the kids only, because sometimes kids don't want like the fancier meal and they just want something that they know that they'd like, and parents just want their kids to eat something so they're not hungry. So I had a side small order of mac and cheese available for kids. Additionally, regarding catering, please make sure that you order extra meals for your vendors. So your photographer, videographer, since they've been with you all day, maybe they have assistants, they will definitely be needing meals at the reception, possibly the DJ if you want to be extra kind. So there are definitely lots of options regarding catered meals for your wedding reception. So you can go the route of a seated plated meal where literally waiters will serve your guests. That's the fanciest option. You could do more of a buffet route so people can walk through the line and pick and choose what they'd like. You could also even just do hors d'oeuvres or appetizers. So there are so many options of, and quite a range of what type of food and the layout of the night. So it's more dependent on what you and your fiance would like. So make sure if you are having waiters or servers serve all of your guests at their tables, that there is a good ratio of servers to guests, as well as you need plenty of help if you're doing a buffet line as well. So normally for meals, there might be hors d'oeuvres, salads or appetizers. They might have soups available. They'll have a main entree. There might be extra desserts, and there would be wedding cake. So there's a lot that goes into it. So the first thing I want you to do is talk with your fiance about these questions. So, do you have favorite foods that you would love to have served at the reception dinner? Because, like I mentioned, you want your wedding and your reception to feel like it reflects you two as a couple. So if you have a favorite food, have that served at your wedding. Are there any major dietary restrictions or allergies that we should keep in mind? So sometimes caterers don't do dietary restrictions as they're just producing meals in bulk, but sometimes they will cater to dietary restrictions or allergies, so just ask them that. Additionally, how do you guys envision your reception dinner? So do you envision a sit-down formal meal with the meals being delivered to all your guests? Or do you picture it like a buffet style with people walking through the line? Do you picture like all those high top tables with the guests eating appetizers and cocktail style? Or would you just like a potluck for your wedding reception where people bring items to eat? So how important is the reception meal to you both in terms of the entire wedding budget? So you can spend a ton of money on your reception meal, or you can go a little bit cheaper route. It also depends on if it's plastic plates or styrofoam plates or nice china plates. All of these little details add up to more of a bill for you. So additionally, how important are the aesthetics of the tableware to you? So if it is an additional fee, is it worth the money to us to have nice china as opposed to clear plastic or white plastic or paper plates or styrofoam? So sometimes that makes a difference to couples, as it definitely does add to the decoration of the table if you have the nice china. Would we consider doing a dessert-only wedding reception to save on costs of meals? If so, would this be appropriate, taking into consideration the time of day of our wedding? So if you're having your wedding at 4 p.m. and it gets over at 5 p.m., it would be really odd to do a dessert-only reception because obviously that's a meal time. Your guests are going to be hungry, so that would not really be a wise option there. Additionally, even though the idea is appealing to do a dessert-only reception, keep in mind that your guests may be traveling from hours away, or maybe they flew in specifically for your wedding. So providing a meal for them is very kind and considerate, considering they're spending their whole day to celebrate you. They may have taken off work, they've traveled, they've bought you a wedding gift, so it's nice to provide a meal for them. Are any family members or friends especially gifted in this area? Would they want to help supply food for the wedding? Or are you comfortable with them even helping with the food instead of just enjoying the night as a guest? Most of the time, you will want to hire a professional catering service to handle all the food, as there are so many meals being produced for your guests that night. So you definitely don't want to put all that stress on a family member or friend if you can help it. Some tips for you to save some money on your reception dinner would be to choose inexpensive foods like pasta. Pasta is a lot more reasonable than, say, a really nice cut steak or a meat of some kind. So if you can't afford to host a full sit-down meal, you could also opt instead for serving light food or appetizers, just something for guests to munch on. Also, buffet tables help save on service costs as well. Additionally, you can make anything look fancy with presentation. I just want you to be aware of that. So even if you have a very cheap meal, if you have nice china, it'll make it look fancier. So Mom and pop catering shops also possibly have cheaper catering services than traditional event catering services. So they may have better rates as they want to get the business. So you can always check out local mom and pop shops. Additionally, you can also go the potluck route if you're wanting family members and friends to pitch in bringing a dish for your wedding. If maybe your wedding's smaller or more intimate, that would work. Or the dessert only reception, if that is definitely the route you want to go. So continuing on, we are going to be talking about the questions that you can ask a potential catering service to see if they are the right fit for your wedding. But before we go into those questions, I quickly wanted to just share with you what James and I had for our wedding meal for our reception. So we had chicken breasts as well as salads, and then we also had green beans. I believe we also had mashed potatoes, and then it also came with a roll. We had unlimited soda, lemonade, coffee, and tea as well, and then our wedding cake. So that is what our wedding reception meal looked like. That gives you a little bit of a reference point as to what might be served and options for you to choose from. So, all right, so questions for potential catering services. So the prerequisite question, does the reception venue provide catering, and are you required to use that venue's catering services? What service items and staff are included in the catering fee? So that way you know how many people are going to be helping serve the meal. Additionally, what are the appetizer, sides, meal, the main entree, and the drink options available that your catering service provides? They'll give you a breakdown and give you all the options possible, and you can customize your meal based on those options. Additionally, if you are on a strict budget for your catering, ask them what their lowest priced options are. You can absolutely be upfront with them. You can ask, say, our budget for catering is between this amount and this amount for insert the number of guests coming to your wedding. What are our options in that range? So for example, if you have 200 guests coming to your wedding and your budget allows for a really nice meal, that might get you a very nice cut of meat. But if on the flip side, you have the same budget and you're inviting 400 people to your wedding, you might want to go with a pasta because you can get more food for your money that way. So just ask them what their options are for your budget and for the estimated number of guests coming to your wedding. Do you offer buffet style, or does your staff serve the plated meals? Does your catering service accommodate special dietary needs if you know certain guests are going to be lactose intolerant, or if they need it to be gluten-free? Do they accommodate special requests? Are you able to sample any food before you sign a contract reserving them for your wedding day? You can possibly stop in. If they are catering for events constantly, they may have sample food available where you could schedule a meeting time. If the reception venue does not provide the china, silverware, etc., then will the caterer provide it? This is important to know because you have to obviously have plates. So if the caterer provides the china or the silverware, what type is included? So do they provide nice china, or do they provide clear plastic or white plastic or paper plates or styrofoam? So it's nice just to know these details so you'll be able to picture and visualize the overall aesthetics of your wedding reception. Are you allowed to place smaller orders of entrees for a kids buffet table titled "For the Kids Only"? So this went over really well. I placed a small order of mac and cheese for estimated number of kids I thought would be at our wedding reception. You can also order other kid-friendly sides. Like most kids love mashed potatoes, so you could have extra sides on their table in case you are ordering more adventurous foods or more adult-like foods for your reception meal. I definitely would recommend having a kids-only section. That way there's some familiar food for your kiddos that are attending your reception, because you don't want hungry kids. That would cause the adults to have to leave your wedding reception early if they get tired and hungry. Ask the catering service what their ratio is of servers to guests. How many staff members do they supply for a wedding that will be hosting your number of guests for the wedding reception? Has this catering company ever worked an event at the reception venue before where you'll be having your reception? This is helpful. That way they know if there's a kitchen, they know where they're going to set up, and they just have a general idea of how the night will flow. So it works really well if your catering company that you're deciding to go with is familiar with the reception venue. Will there be service staff on site to manage the meal? This is very helpful. You don't just want the caterer to drop it off. It would be excellent if they can stay, help serve the meal, or if there are any issues to answer questions. Do they have a preset menu, or are you allowed to create a custom menu? So is it like only these options that you can choose from, like this entree, this side, this salad, or can you change it and pick and mix and match to make it your very own reception meal that's customized to your taste? Also, for the catering service, do they offer bartenders? If so, how many bartenders do they recommend for your number of guests? If they don't offer bartenders, then obviously you'll have to hire them from an outside company. Are you allowed to supply your own alcohol? Is there a corkage fee? So if the caterer does supply the bartenders and the alcohol, you may not be able to bring in your alcohol. So additionally, ask your caterer what their payment terms are and what methods of payment they accept, as well as if there's an additional service charge for paying with a credit card, as there are additional fees for paying with electronic payments. Then find out what steps you need to take to reserve your catering service, their catering service for your wedding date. So is there a contract that you need to sign? I definitely recommend getting something in writing. Find out what the balance is and when the final balance is due. Also, when are the final RSVP head counts due? So you may be inviting 300 people, but as you'll find out, not everyone is going to be making it to your wedding. So you might not really know how many meals to place an order for because you don't have the final number of guests attending your reception. So find out when that final head count is going to be due. For us, that head count, that final number was due 10 days prior to the wedding. That allowed sufficient time for the cooks to make and get all the food ready for our guests. So 10 days before the wedding is pretty standard. It might be 14 days if you're lucky. Additionally, you can ask the caterer if they are licensed and insured. And then definitely ask them for a menu. That way you can look through all the options. They might have certain packages available for different price ranges, or they may just have options for you to pick and choose from what main entrees, which sides, which types of salads or soups or desserts or drinks, and then you can pick and choose amongst their menu. So just get all of this information from them and go from there. So hopefully this helps and you can begin having conversations with potential catering services. And once you find the right one, get them locked down for your wedding so they don't get snatched up for another wedding. So hopefully this helps you. You definitely want to get them reserved, as catering services don't just cater for weddings, but they cater for graduation parties, they cater for business events. There are so many events they cater for, so you definitely want to get them reserved as soon as possible. So thank you so much for watching, and please head to the next section.